Are you sure?
Here's the 30-second lesson on what legends know. Never ask a bride why she's getting married. Don't wear a skirt on a windy day. Deodorant is not a shower. Don't sniff chili flakes. And don't forget, saving is not investing. Legends don't just save, they invest in mutual funds. Mutual fund investments are subject to market risks. Read all scheme-related documents carefully.
Cut the Clutter is back in its familiar old setting and also with a familiar story that refuses to get old. That is the story of Pakistani Army and the shenanigans involving Pakistani Army generals. What's happened? Possibly you've seen the headlines or maybe you missed these because Indian media has not been able to give it so much time because after all there is only that much space on the front pages and at prime time, and there is so much else going on from sport to law and order to politics, particularly the terrible incidents in Kolkata in the hospital with the young doctor. That said, a very important moment has come to pass in Pakistan, and that is the Pakistani Army arresting a three-star general, a former three-star general. Now, that is not something that's never happened in Pakistan. Three-star generals have been arrested and prosecuted in the past, at least thrice. These examples we know of the three occasions. One was just fired, although he had just been made a four-star a day or couple of days before he was fired. I will tell you the details as we go along. The other two were convicted, of which one was handed out a long jail sentence where he was then released after serving for 4 years. So that is three-star generals. So this is not unprecedented. And there have been other generals, 2 stars, brigadiers, etc. If I start giving you that count, that will be a real roll of dishonor. So let's not go there. It's not even so relevant anymore. What's important is that it's the first time that the Pakistani Army, Pakistani government or courts have not arrested. It's the Pakistani Army which has arrested this three-star general under the Army Act. And he will be put to trial under Field GCM under the Army Act in Pakistan. The important thing is he's not just any former three-star general. He's a former ISI chief. So this is the first case of an ISI chief, former, serving, whatever. Because an ISI chief in Pakistan, as we also explained to you in our episode 852, of which I will share a link with you, an ISI chief is almost as powerful as the army chief in Pakistan. In fact, in many ways, he's more powerful than the army chief because he's somebody who will always be privy, who will have the resources to even get the inside dope on the army chief and also future chiefs to be. The ISI chief has that kind of power. It's completely extra-constitutional in Pakistan. Significant thing is that within the army itself, while the ISI is technically, effectively, militarily, hierarchically under the army chief, the office of the institution is such that the ISI chief also acquires powers of its own. And just as there is a state within a state, the deep state in Pakistan is very well defined as Pakistani Army plus old bureaucracy, etc. But within that state is the army, within the army there is the ISI, and within the ISI there are then other elements of the deep state. There are different directorates which have history of their own and which have continuity in their own way. So men may come and men may go, generals may come and generals may go, but they go on forever doing their mischief. It is that position that General Faiz Hameed had. Now, many of you might remember General Faiz Hameed dressed in civis, in a very casual, smart blazer, in the Hotel Serena in Kabul. This is just after the Americans had left, Ghani had left, and just after the Taliban had taken over. So he became the first senior foreign official to land in Kabul, and you can see that mood was celebratory because he had painted this as his victory, because he had supported the Taliban, he had backed them, he was the controller of Taliban, and to him it was like a personal victory and he had gone to celebrate. Also at that point he was on a high, which you can see in his body language. He was on a high because he was the ISI chief, and chances were he would have thought that he will serve a longer tenure as ISI chief. He was very close to Imran Khan, and then that Imran Khan would appoint him as the next army chief. However, remember in Pakistan, one very important thing, the ISI chief is very powerful. It's very powerful. In fact, in most cases, particularly when the government is not so strong. The elected government is almost never strong, but sometimes it's less strong than on other occasions, as now. Occasionally, it's strong for some time when it has a majority, as Nawaz Sharif has had a couple of times. Otherwise, it's usually quite shaky. An ISI chief, because he is more powerful than the army chief, almost never becomes the chief. In fact, the important thing to note is that General Asim Munir, who's the current chief in Pakistan, chief of army staff, is only the second. He is only the second former ISI chief to become the army chief. In fact, the only one before him was General Ashfaq Parvez Kayani. Ashfaq Parvez Kayani was the ISI chief from 2004 to 2007, then became the army chief. I said infamous for many reasons, because he was the army chief when 26/11 attacks took place. Now, 2007, when he became the army chief, that was the time Pakistani army was really in bad odor. It was really unpopular with the people, as is the case right now. It was really unpopular because Musharraf was on his way out. There was public protests against Musharraf's subversion of Pakistan's judiciary. Nawaz Sharif was planning a comeback, and it looked like the people really disliked the army. They didn't trust the army, and that's when the slogan, "ये जो दहशतगर्दी है, इसके पीछे वर्दी है," that what is behind this terrorism? Nothing else but this uniform. That's when those slogans first emerged on the street. Now, it is widely believed that 26/11, the plan and the execution of that plan by the immediate former chief of ISI, who had now become the army chief, that was something that he enacted because the plans were ready, his boys were there, he had prepared them. He did it at that time, knowing that this will lead to tensions with India. And the moment there are tensions with India, Pakistani army can paint this as there is threat to Pakistan. And when there is threat to Pakistan, who do you trust but Pakistan army? And that's why when 26/11 took place, India never even threatened to carry out any retaliation. India was very calm at that point. But the Pakistanis had their F-16s running low sorties over their own cities. Now that's a bit ridiculous, because deep inside your territories, you are defending your cities and your installations. You should be flying high, not low, because you're not trying to hide from radar. You should be flying high, looking down on anything else that might be coming in from Indian side. But why were these F-16s flying low? That was to build a warlike mood. And that warlike mood then helped restore the Pakistani army's reputation or respect. So that was the first case of a former ISI chief becoming army chief in Pakistan. Asim Munir is the second case. Asim Munir, however, had a very short tenure between 2018 and 19. He had a tenure of less than 1 year. How did he get such a short tenure? He is actually quite an accomplished soldier in the Pakistani army system. He's only one of the 3 Sword of Honor winners from the Pakistan Military Academy to become chiefs. The other 2 were actually good professional generals and never meddled in politics. That is Asif Nawaz, Janjua, although he never used the word Janjua, he died in harness. The other, General Jahangir Karamat, was also respected by the Indian side as well, because he was earlier Director of Military Operations and involved in many negotiations with the Indian side. Those were days when line of control was quite active, and he was at the other end of the hotline as well. He also left service midway. Instead of interfering with politics, he could not put up with politics and preferred to resign. So, honorable soldier Asif Nawaz, as I told you, died in harness while driving to Murree from Islamabad. He had a heart attack apparently and died. Asim Munir is the third, the Sword of Honor. Now, he was given less than a year, which never happens with ISI, because Imran Khan did not want him. Imran Khan did not want him because Imran Khan suspected that he had found the dirt on Bushra Bibi, the new wife that Imran Khan had. And that dirt was flying around. So Imran Khan by this time was not quite at odds with General Qamar Javed Bajwa. At this point, Imran Khan was quite friendly with him still. They fell out later. So he got General Bajwa to remove him, and his choice in the position was Lieutenant General Faiz Hameed. We need to understand all of that before I take you forward on the story of his arrest. So he's now been arrested. Faiz Hameed was the ISI chief. Then at one point, around time Qamar Javed Bajwa, the general, the chief then on an extension. Many chiefs in Pakistan get extensions. That is the reason I pointed this out to you earlier as well. Since 1972, I'm taking that as a cutoff point, because that is when General Sam Manekshaw retired as Indian Army Chief. The reason I'm taking that as a cutoff point is that's when this Pakistan had come into being. So I'm looking at the first Pakistani chiefs. Otherwise, it was the combined Pakistan, East and West. So if we take that as a cutoff point, since then, Pakistan has had 11 army chiefs, including the current one, the serving one. India, on the other hand, in the same period, has had 22 army chiefs. Because what does it tell us? It tells us that in India, an army chief completes his tenure and goes home. In Pakistan, it rarely happens. Either an army chief carries on, gets extensions, or becomes the ruler of the country and gives himself any extensions, can even appoint somebody chief under him, as Ayub did in his time, right? Those things go on in Pakistan. That's why Pakistan has fewer chiefs. And when somebody becomes chief, usually almost everybody becomes chief by superseding others, because the government of the day thinks, let me get this slightly junior guy, he'll be more compliant. But you know what? Once they sit on the chair, they all become the same. Some similar drama had also been enacted when Asim Munir became chief. So try and understand. Asim Munir was removed as ISI chief under Imran Khan's persuasion by Qamar Javed Bajwa. And in his place, Faiz Hameed was put in as the chief. Then, as Imran Khan and Bajwa fell out, that is towards the end of Bajwa's second term, as they fell out and Bajwa decided that, look, Imran Khan is becoming too defiant. Imran Khan, we mentioned this earlier, he committed 3 cardinal errors. On 3 issues, he challenged the army. One, he did not allow the Americans some rights or some access to some bases, etc., to look after their own assets in Afghanistan after they had left Afghanistan, and also to carry out any strikes against terrorist groups still there. Pakistani Army would have liked to accommodate the Americans. Imran Khan said no. The second thing was the Pakistani Army, General Bajwa in particularly, wanted some kind of dialing down of tensions with India and resumption of trade. In fact, he had spoken about it. Imran Khan vetoed that. And the third important thing is that Imran Khan meddled with the appointments at the top in the army. That is never done in Pakistan. No elected prime minister tries to do that. There was another issue, but I would call it half an issue. So these 3 matter. The half issue was how Imran Khan was trying to reach out to Putin, which the army thought will annoy the Americans, which the army doesn't want happening. Nevertheless, in that process, Imran Khan was forced by General Bajwa, was being forced to remove General Faiz Hameed as the ISI chief, because it's such a powerful position, and in his place appoint Lieutenant General Naveed Anjum, who was then the Quetta Corps commander. That Imran Khan did not want. But the chief, the chief is his own boss in Pakistan. Never mind what my constitution says, that I report to the prime minister. Prime minister can go take a walk, right? So while the prime minister waited, the chief appointed Naveed Anjum, the ISI chief, moved Faiz Hameed as corps commander. Peshawar, the prime minister did not issue those posting orders, right? But orders were carried out nevertheless. 3 weeks later, Imran Khan followed his pride and issued the orders. So that context is something we need to understand before we get into the arrest. It is that Faiz Hameed later he was not made chief. He was in a panel of 4 senior-most generals sent to the Prime Minister, out of which one was to be chosen as chief. But at that point, in that episode 852, I had said, but that would depend on who the Prime Minister is when this happens, right? In Pakistan, the senior-most is almost never chosen. So the Prime Minister changed by then, and Asim Munir was made the chief on the day he was to retire. In fact, there is a lot of complexity there, which I can't go into right now. Now, this Faiz Hameed, who was Imran's man, and before that was accused by Nawaz Sharif, by Maryam Nawaz, etc., of having manipulated the elections of 2018, the post-election coalition making, then playing games with Tehreek-e-Labbaik, organizing dharnas to put pressure on PML Nawaz government, and then also negotiating with them to get the dharnas called off. He was the key figure. Mind you, this is 2017-18. This is not when he was ISI chief yet. However, as I told you, within ISI, there are divisions which have their own power. So in ISI, he was the head of the counterintelligence division, or G division as it's called, counterintelligence division, which keeps control of internal intelligence, but it doesn't just catch foreign spies. It mostly keeps an eye on political activity, rival generals, etc., etc. And thereby, that office carries enormous clout. He used that clout to help General Bajwa, who then wanted Nawaz Sharif out, and Imran Khan in. So he helped General Bajwa and Imran Khan. So a regime change took place in Pakistan through a selection after an indecisive election, which had also been rigged in multiple ways. I tell you all this so we understand how significant the man is. So he was always on the radar screen of the Sharif family and PML Nawaz. He was always a target for General Asim Munir as well. He's now been arrested by the army. And what are the charges? The charges are extortion, manipulating power for private and personal gain by way of grabbing hundreds of acres of land for himself and his family, and also disobedience and revolt. So the Pakistani DGISPR, the most important, I think the most powerful spokesman for anybody in the world, because he speaks for the Pakistani Army, he spoke to the media and he spoke in Urdu, a few lines in English, and I will share a link with you. And he said, in Pakistan Army, we believe in self-accountability. It's part of that process that he's been arrested. Now, he's been arrested. The case also involves 2 other former brigadiers of ISI, that is Brigadier Naeem Fakhr and Brigadier Ghaffar. Now, these 2 brigadiers were in cahoots with him, and I will tell you what the immediate story is. Although there are charges also of insubordination and revolt and mutiny from times when he was still in service to this corruption. Now, the story is about something called Top City Housing Scheme. Now, Top City Housing Scheme was a large urban housing development scheme selling plots as well as housing. You've seen them coming up all across India. They do come up all across Pakistan as well. Every country is urbanizing, with one difference. Because in a lot of the property development in Pakistan, you will see not just the fingerprints of the armed forces and not just the fingerprints of the veterans of the armed forces, but also of current serving generals of the armed forces. We've spoken about a general who ran that pizza franchise empire. We've also spoken about the wealth that General Kiani built, that General Bajwa built. So Pakistani generals are also entrepreneurs. Now, this Top City Housing Scheme was promoted or owned by a man called Muiz Ahmad Khan. Now, Muiz Ahmad Khan went to a court. He went to a court in November 2023. By this time, Imran Khan is firmly out of power and his rivals are in power, and also Asim Munir is the big man in Pakistan, General Asim Munir. He goes to the Supreme Court of Pakistan saying that on May 12, 2017, his premises, his home and his company offices, they were raided by the ISI accompanied by Pakistan Rangers, which is a bit like BSF in Pakistan, accompanied by them, and they raided him, filed trumped up cases against him, and also took away a whole bunch of valuables, including about 5 kilos of gold, 4.5 to 5 kilos of gold, 400 tolas of gold. 1 tola, which is our traditional measure, is 11.66 grams. So 400 tolas of gold and 4 crores of rupees, Pakistani rupees. Those were taken. That raid was in 2017, and that, he said, was carried out on the orders of General Faiz Hameed, who was then head of counterintelligence in the ISI. He was not head of the ISI. Then he became the head of ISI, so became even more powerful. And he says once the trade was carried out, he was sent an emissary, basically, or set of emissaries, which were these two brigadiers. So these two brigadiers reached out to him through his brother-in-law and said, listen, you be reasonable, do it our way, transfer this land to so-and-so. The so-and-so in this case was Najaf Hameed, Sardar Najaf Hameed as he's called, the brother of Faiz Hameed. He is actually a junior level revenue official, a Naib Tehsildar. That's a designation that's very familiar to us in India as well. That also tells us that Pakistani generals also now come from working class families, ordinary working class families. That said, a lot of this property was then transferred to Najaf Hameed, after which these cases were dropped and he was allowed to go. And then he says he was asked to meet, the emissary took him to meet General Faiz Hameed, who said, all right, I will drop the cases, I will also let you go, but I will not give you two things. One, I will not give you back 400 tolas of gold, that's a little over 4.5 kilos of gold, and I will not give you the 4 crores back. Plus, of course, the land that was transferred to his brother. So that, in short, is the case against him. That's now been made out. However, the other cases of subversion in the past, of revolt, of disobedience, that depends on a lot of the material that the Army and ISI have gathered once they've carried out raids on Imran Khan, his people, particularly one of his ministers, Shireen Mazari, who was, I think, for some time human rights minister, but a very vocal spokesperson for his party. And there they collected the usual digital evidence, phone evidence, etc. And through that, they will build a case. It's quite evident that he tried to subvert not just the elected government, but also the leadership of the army, because that is what then makes it a case of mutiny. Now, I told you earlier on that in the past also, Pakistani Army has arrested, tried, convicted 3-star generals and 2-star generals. So I'll just give you some examples as I had promised you. Lieutenant General Javed Ashraf Qazi, he faced charges because charges were thrown at him. Nothing particularly happened after that. He was ISI chief, and this was the scandal involving the building of Royal Palm Golf and Country Club on railway land near Lahore. So that was just badnami. Then you come to Lieutenant General Javed Iqbal, again a 3-star. On 30th May 2019, he was convicted for spying and leaking critical information to foreign powers. Everybody thinks that it was about Americans, to CIA. He was convicted and given a long 20-year sentence. This was reduced last year to 4 years, and after 4 years, he was released quietly. And then there is also the infamous Major General Zahirul Islam Abbasi, who we knew well in India because he was a defense advisor in the Pakistan High Commission, and he used to make a joker of himself in the social circuit. And then he would say idiotic things like, aapki Hindu kaum fana ho jayegi, aapki auratein behaya ho gayi hai, that your women have become so extroverted that your Hindu community will die or self-destruct, etc., etc. Everybody laughed at him until we were laughing at him a little bit harder, because he thought he was James Bond and he tried to set up a spying mission, an exchange of information for money, which was a trap that the Intelligence Bureau ran. So in Asaf Ali Road, not far from my office, he was caught in the act by the Intelligence Bureau, by counterintelligence, and sent packing back to Pakistan, declared persona non grata. However, he rose in the Pakistani Army, became a Major General, and continued to be an Islamist there also. And there at one point, he tried to carry out a coup along with Brigadier Mustashir Bilal and 2 colonels and 38 other officers. On September 26, 1995, they were arrested. Their idea was that they will raid the corps commanders' meeting and kill them and take over and declare an Islamic caliphate in Pakistan, where Major General Abbasi would become Amirul Momineen. Meanwhile, he had also earned some infamy for himself in operations, because he was commanding a sector sort of between Siachen and Kargil, and he thought he will avenge Siachen in some way by carrying out an operation. His troops got caught. To try and rescue his troops or guide them on the ground, he sent a brigadier up in his helicopter. That brigadier was taken down by an Indian rocket. So he lost a brigadier as well. So he had earned quite a bit of that infamy. He was thrown out of the army. He was court-martialed and thrown out of the army. Then there was a 3-star Lieutenant General Obidullah Khattak, who Rahil Sharif, when he was Chief of Army Staff, he also fired for corruption. So definitely Faiz Hameed is not the first. Pakistani Army has had this record. However, he is at this point the only ex-ISI chief to be prosecuted by a GCM, by a field GCM, and also the most powerful of the generals prosecuted so far. And before I let you go, I will share a graphic with you. Please look at your screens carefully. I know everybody is feeling really very bad that we've done badly at the Olympics. We got too few medals. In fact, we are down to the 2012 level. We missed a gold, etc., etc. The important thing is the Olympics is a very high target. You don't just get up and get medals at the Olympics. What happens before the Olympics? In the Indian context, it will be the Asian Games. So it's only when you are doing better at the Asian level that going ahead, you will hope to do better at the Olympics. So I thought I'll just share this graphic with you, starting with 1982. 82 is important because that's when Asian Games were held in New Delhi. Starting with 1982, see how India's tally of gold medals and total medals has changed. And you will see generally 82 was the home advantage, we got 13, 86 was 5, 1990 was the worst, we got only 1 gold medal. That's Kabaddi. It also particularly rankles with me because I covered those Asian Games for India Today magazine. From Beijing, only 1. But then you see how the golds have gone up from 1 to 4 to 7 to 11, then 10, 14, 11, then 16, and then 28. And similarly, you can see the overall medal number has also gone up. So it tells you that India is doing better and better and better and better at Asian level. When that happens, when India has about 200 athletes in various disciplines, or 250 athletes in various disciplines who are among the top 3 in Asia, then India can expect to also have about 50 who can be top 5 in the world or at least top 10 in the world. Anybody who's in top 10 in the world then has a chance at the Olympics. So this is a process. India has been in that process. This improvement at the Asian level is quite remarkable. India crossed the 100 medal tally for the first time in 2022. It's also when India became 4th in the Asiad medals tally, just after China, Japan, South Korea. And also India finished 2nd in track and field. So there is a lot of improvement. Just set realistic targets and be happy and be optimistic instead of constantly ruining and doing Rona Dhona over not getting enough medals at the Olympics.